Welcome, folks. Rambam. We are in the laws of Shemitah, sabbatical year. Sabbatical year means a year to take off. So what does that mean for us? You know, it means to you take off time from work in order to learn. So that's what you're doing today. All right, chapter 6 in the laws of sabbatical year. We may not use the produce of sabbatical year for commercial activity. Remember, sabbatical year means all the land is fallow. Biblically, you're not allowed to seed it. You're not allowed to harvest it. Rabbinically, even other things you're not allowed to do. You're not even allowed rabbinically to that if things grow wild to benefit of it from it, because then maybe people will just plant and say, "Wow, it just grew wild," you know. Trees you can take benefit from the fruits because fruits automatically grow. For tomatoes to grow, you have to every year you need to plant. Although if it's a tomato branch already that's there, you don't have to. Every year you have to seed. Yeah, you have to seed every year. Okay. So now, and all the food that you use, all the whatever you're able to make use of has to be used for food, drink. You could use it for smearing, like oils, like olive oil. If it's got to use it for personal usage. Now, one may not use products of the sabbatical year for commercial activity because that's not for consumption, right? Interesting commentators ask on the Rambam over here because he doesn't bring a verse to prove, right? To bring a verse means it's biblical. If you don't bring a verse, it might suggest that it's only a rabbinic law rather than biblical law. One in chapter 6. Right. If one desires to sell a small amount of produce sabbatical year, he may. A small amount. The money he receives in return has the same status as a produce of sabbatical year. So now he got money. It has the same status as the food that he sold. He should use it to purchase food. As he can't go buy a car with it. He can't go buy a horse with it. Car back in the day, right? Can't do that. And eat the food according to the restrictions of holiness of the sabbatical year. Because it's holy for you. The sanctity of the article, the holy song to the temple is transferred to the money received from them. So too, the holiness of the produce of the sabbatical year is transferred to the money. Okay. Just as it's holy, the food, you sold it, the money is holy and has to be, right. The produce of that was sold retains the holiness it possessed previously. Meaning to the person who bought it. We'll see more on that. In this sabbatical year, one should not reap vegetables from the field and sell them, nor should one charge a fee for dyeing with shells from produce of the sabbatical year, because this is using the produce of the sabbatical year for commercial activity. So you can sell a little bit of stuff for food, right? But to reap vegetables from the field, yeah, those are the vegetables, because we said the vegetables, you can't. They're called svichim that are not, that you're not allowed to, rabbinically at least. Right. Others, so there are certain circumstances, there are certain vegetables we had that in chapter 4, like a certain kind of onions and different, I don't recall the different kind of things besides onions, I remember. And there's a reason for that. I'm trying to recall now. So, but don't make business from it. If one reaped vegetables to partake of them, and some were left over, he may sell the remainder. Okay, so there's some left over, you could. The proceeds are considered as produce of sabbatical year. And it's like we said earlier, right? Similarly, if a person reaped vegetables for himself and his son and his grandson took some of them and sold them, the sale is permitted. And the proceeds is considered as produce of sabbatical year. Since he didn't do it himself, but his son or grandson did it. Yes, that must be rabbinic. Okay, yeah, it is rabbinic. When the produce of sabbatical year is sold, it should not be sold by measure, nor by weight, nor by number, so that it will not appear as one is selling produce of sabbatical year. Instead, he should sell a small amount by estimation to make it known that the produce is ownerless. And the proceeds of sale should be used to purchase other food, as we mentioned. So remember, sabbatical year, this is interesting. You own a field, you can't fence off the field. That no one should come in there and things that grew there, like your fruit trees that you wanted to take. Well, it's the law is it's ownerless. That's the biblical law about the field. It's ownerless, which means comes the sabbatical year. It's ownerless, so anybody has access to it as I do, to my own field. That's why you shouldn't fence it off or close the gates, rather, because it's hefker, it's free for all. Not a free for all, but it's free for everyone. Might end up being that way, but and that's why when you sell it, when you are allowed to sell like a small amount that we said, right? Don't do it precisely, because then it sounds do it in a way so it's indicative of that this is produce from the sabbatical year. Now, so now that money that you're going to make again is holy in the sense that you have to use it towards food. Holiness means a limitation. That's the consequence of something holy, is that has parameters and limitations. Okay, number 4. One may package those entities that are usually packaged to bring home to sell in the market by estimation in the manner that one packages produce to bring home. Not like one packages for the market. There, you're more careful. So then one will not sell in a constrained manner. Produce is packaged only for the marketplace should not be packaged.
Don't measure it.
Don't measure it, when you package it beautifully, then it's sold for more, right? All those things you shouldn't do, which you would normally do, so you can get a better price. Not here. Halacha 5, product from the diaspora, which is brought into Eretz Yisrael, should not be sold by measure, nor by weight, nor by number. Instead, they should be sold by the estimation like the produce of Eretz Yisrael. So it has the same law once it's brought into Israel. If it was obvious that this was produce of diaspora, it is permitted to sell it in ordinary manner. And
produce from the diaspora, that's before they entered Israel, they brought produce?
Yeah, outside of Israel, we import a lot of fruit and vegetables, right? We import fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Remember, the sabbatical year is only one place in the land of Israel, right? We don't do that here in Montreal, or in Brazil, or in Poland, or anywhere else, right? Only in Israel. But what happens if you brought produce into Israel? this is a rabbinic law, not biblical law, because you're not obliged at all. But produce, if you brought grapes into Israel and it looks like grapes of Israel, then and you're going to sell it in the regular way, people are going to be questioning what's going on over here. Right? No, that's not good enough. People don't read. People are ignorant. People are olam goylam. You can put big signs in front of people and people just walk by them, right? So in any case, no, this is halacha. It's not, this is what the halacha is. Right now, if it's something that doesn't grow in Israel, and everybody knows that it doesn't grow in Israel, right? Oranges do grow in Israel, Jaffa oranges, right? But whatever. Kind of, I don't know, whatever it is.
Everything goes in Israel.
All right. So there you get your. Okay. There is a stringency that applies to the process of sabbatical year and not to articles consecrated to the temple. There is something stringent. Right. When one redeems consecrated articles, right? In other words, if I take my cow is being consecrated for the temple, right? So there's a holiness to it, right? There's a stringency in the process of sabbatical year that's more than that of which we declare for the temple, right? Consecrated for the temple. So he explains, when one redeems consecrated articles, the consecrated article loses sacred status, and thus the status is conveyed to the money. So now, remember, we learned this previously. The temple treasury doesn't need your cow, right? Even though it sacrifices one lot, but that's all, it needs money.
Yeah,
so now you consecrated it, you got to redeem it. Or someone will redeem it. Or they'll have it redeemed by someone else, right? People will pay for it. Fine. I mean, it gets a lesser value because it's got limitations to it, but it's got value. So it's going to be redeemed. When you redeem that cow, it's now completely without sanctity. And you could use it for whatever you want, right? Go, use it to plow your field, slaughter it for Shabbos, meal, whatever you want, right? But that's not the case with regard to produce of sabbatical year. When one sells the produce of sabbatical year, the status of produce is conveyed to the money. The money becomes holy, right? So the produce was holy. You sold it. Now that money becomes holy. The produce itself, however, does not lose its status. So you think the produce should lose its status, like the cow lost its status when you redeemed it. No. Yeah. However, does not lose its status and not considered as produce of other years. This is derived from the use of the word tia in the commandment regarding the produce of sabbatical. Here, tia will be, meaning the terms applies to produce will be in a state at all times. And others, it will be this all the time, meaning that since the produce of sabbatical year is considered as holy, is described as holy, so the status is conveyed to the money paid for it. So when you exchange it, so the money is now holy. But did the holiness lose out on the food? No. Thus, the final object purchase receives the status of sabbatical year, and the status of produce itself remains as before. So now both of them are holy. Wow. I don't know, is that called holy cow then? Okay, what does it imply? What does this mean precisely? How are we doing, folks? Can I just ask a brief question? I have a new camera and I have a new microphone. Is it better? Sound better?
Like the eye
Yes.
doctor, it's the same.
Excellent. Sounds great.
I know, but is it
The
better or
picture
you
is
just don't
better.
remember what it was like?
Picture is definitely better if you blow it up. There's
Yeah.
more resolution.
There's more resolution.
Can.
So, you're seeing it more blown up?
Can. Can I
Okay.
pin you and then I make you bigger and I can see the detail?
More pixels.
More than you did before then.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
More pixels.
More pixels, right. Anybody else, Liba?
It's way better.
Much better. It's much clearer, both in the audio and the video.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Give me a second. Okay, so while we're talking about this, tell me if is there a difference? Is that better or worse now?
Mm.
Same.
I think better.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So what is implied? A person purchased meat from the product of a sabbatical year, or the proceeds from its sale. The meat is given a status of that produce and must be eaten as befits the holiness of the produce of sabbatical year, and one must rid oneself of it when one must rid oneself of that produce. We'll see that in chapter 7. Okay. If one used the meat or the proceeds from that sale to purchase fish, the meat is considered ordinary food, and the holiness of the sabbatical year is conveyed upon the fish.
Sounds good.
Wow. This is like you purchase. Okay, what did you do? You purchased meat with the produce about it. So you had produce, right? Meat is not produce, right? So you had a basket of oranges, Jeff oranges, right? And you sold them for meat, right? That meat has got holiness to it. Sabbatical year holiness, right? And which we'll learn more about what that means. Now, if one used the meat now, or the proceeds of the sale of the meat to purchase fish, the meat is considered an ordinary, because this is a second step now. This is a third step, right? The holiness of the sabbatical year is conveyed upon the fish, though. If one used the fish or the proceeds of the sale to purchase oil, the fish is considered ordinary food, and the holiness of the sabbatical year is conveyed upon the oil. If one used the oil or the proceeds of the sale to purchase honey, the oil is considered ordinary food, and the holiness of the sabbatical year is conveyed on the honey, and one must rid oneself of the original, fruit and the honey, as one must rid oneself of the produce of the sabbatical year. Neither of them may be used to make a compress, nor may they be ruined as a rule with regard to the produce of sabbatical year. So, when we say it's holy in the sabbatical year, that means it's got limitations, right? That's what I said. So for example, let's say you needed a compress. Remember, we learned, or I mentioned, and we learned it yesterday, but we learned that you can only use sabbatical year fruits and whatever kind of vegetables that would be permitted, which is limited. You can only use it for food purposes, right? Consumption purposes, or for drinking, or for smearing. But you can't use it for other things like a compress, right? Or they can't get ruined. They have to be used for your food, or or whatever, for those forms of consumption. That's the, as opposed to if it was regular, not holiness to it, then you can use it for whatever needs you have. But the Torah specifically gave it a parameter of being used in the manners that we just mentioned. So the original fruit and the final thing that you bought, right, would have the parameter of the holiness of sabbatical year, but not other things, not the things in between, because you redeemed it. Except for the original two, the money and the food, right? But here we went on and on. Okay, The holiness of the produce of the sabbatical year may be transferred only through a sale. When does this apply? With regard to original produce. So, right, you have original produce, basket of those Jaffa oranges. You now sold it. So both the money, which now you have to use for food or drink or smearing something that, benefiting the body, only benefiting the body. We learned in benefit, if you use the oil to like your shoes, you got new shoes and they're a little hardened and you want to soften them and you put oil on your shoe, you're not allowed to, because it has to be for your bodily pleasure, even though indirectly it will, because your feet will be much more comfortable. But you could put it on your feet, the oil, rub it, smear it, and then put it into your shoe, right? Because your body had the pleasure, and even though there will be an offshoot benefit to the shoes, that's okay. But if you're giving it the other direction, you're putting it into your shoe and you're getting an offshoot benefit to your body, not allowed, because that's the limitation of the holiness of the produce of the sabbatical year. Got that? Fascinating. Okay, so we said that the holiness is transferred through the sale, right? When does this apply? With regard to the original produce. With regard to the produce received in exchange for that produce, its holiness can be transferred through a sale or through the process of transfer.
What number?
8. With regard to the produce received in exchange.
When is this produce transferred to the other produce?
Right. In other words,
Yeah.
and by verbally declaring it. That's the point. Okay. When one is transferring the holiness of produce that was exchanged for produce of sabbatical year, one may not transfer it to a domesticated animal, fowl, or beast that is alive. That's to be left alive when one raises hers and animals imbued with the holiness of this sabbatical year. Because you might not slaughter it and use that animal, that meat in the sabbatical year, right? You're going to keep that animal because you're going to raise that animal part of a herd. So now the herd is imbued, right, with the holiness of the sabbatical year. Needless to say, this applies with the produce sabbatical year itself. However, transfer holiness to this produce to animals that have been slaughtered. But if they've been slaughtered, you could, because it's meat. You're going to have to use it. You're not going to leave it. You're not leaving it for the dogs. You're going to use it. Okay. Money received for produce of the sabbatical year may not be used to pay a debt, nor may be used, right, to repay shushvinos. Shushvinos means when your friend's getting married, right? This is what back in the day they used to kind of like buy into your friend's wedding. You used to pay, and then you used to come and participate, right? And then he would come to your wedding and pay in. That way, it helped to reduce any kind of debt that would be from a wedding, because all your friends would give money to you, called shushvinis, right?
Yours.
And you owe it back to your friend when he gets married, that you're going to give him, right? It's kind of, we learned these laws. Okay,
That's the way you-
but you're not allowed to use that money, right? Because that's all for, even though you're gonna eat food you're gonna benefit from food. Because you're gonna go to the wedding and you're gonna eat a meal there, right? So you might think, oh, I got bet. No, no, no. Because it's not direct benefit of food.
That's how you guys do it.
Well, no, we don't do that
Carry
anymore.
out,
Yeah.
daughters.
Yeah. Or return a favor. One should not use it to pay a pledge of charity for the poor in the synagogue. However, send it for purposes associated with acts of kindness. One must notify the recipients that it's right, so that they treat it with the appropriate holiness and rid themselves of it as required, right? Because remember, it's holiness for them. So you need to know that.
Not giving the full.
Also, he's not going to be overly grateful for it because it's not real full value, right? You got this money and now you're sending it as an act of kindness. Ah, okay. The act of kindness here. I was wondering what that meant. It means someone who lost a family member and they're sitting shiva. So this is the act of kindness, means the meal of bereavement. That's what I was wondering how you can. It's food. So even though you're not benefiting from the food, a person has to benefit from the food. So you're giving them a meal of bereavement, right? So it's food that someone is getting. So person's going, wow, that's so kind of you. But in the end, you gave it from the sabbatical money. You had to use it for food. So use it for so the person's not going to be like taken by you. So, be like a false sense of your kindness, even though it was a kindness. You could use the money for yourself, right? But it's just still not the same. Is that clear? Okay, good. Similarly, it may not be used to purchase servants, landed property, or non-kosher animal. If it was used for those purposes, one should purchase ordinary food with the commensurate sum and partake of it as it befits the holiness of the sabbatical year, as explained with regard to second tithes. We learned this idea in second tithes when you did that, right? Second tithes, you have to eat it in Jerusalem, right? And what if you didn't? So now you got to take ordinary money and go do that, right? So here you took money and you did this. Well, you're going to have to take now other money and use it as it's the holiness of sabbatical year, as we explained with regard to the second tithes. Okay, one may not purchase pairs of doves or the sacrifices of zovim of women after childbirth or sin offerings or guilt offerings. If you purchase these things with the funds, you should purchase food. You got to go by with the commensurate money, some rather, and partake of it as befits the holiness of sabbatical year. One should not apply oil from the sabbatical year to utensils or hides. Now, if one did so, one should purchase food with the commensurate sum and partake of it as befits the holiness of sabbatical year. So you did all the things that you shouldn't do. Take other money and buy sabbatical food with it. Okay, this money should not be given to the bathhouse attendant or for bloodletter, even though you're getting pleasure from it, right? Bloodletter, I mean, it's your health. The person who sails on a boat or another craftsman, he should, however, give them to a person who draws water from the well to provide him with drinking water, because water you can have. You can have food and water. It's permitted to give the produce of the sabbatical year or the money received in return for it to the craftsman as a present. Oh, that's interesting. Even though the craftsman will be receiving the present, he will return the favor to a person in some way that is permitted. Yeah, not exactly clear on that.
Well, if you give it to somebody else, you don't use it for.
Yeah, all the other things were kind of payments, right? This is a gift.
You have to use it for food,
Yeah,
can't use it for anything else.
right. But it's a gift. I guess because it's a gift, and I guess because he gives even though the craftsman will be receiving a present, and will return the favor to the person in some way. So, yeah, he's got, because the person who it was, I guess he has to have some kind of benefit from it. So he's going to get a benefit. Not so clear on that. I guess though that he's getting food benefit. So it's not you, fine. And even you'll get some kind of benefit from it. May not be food for you in return though.
So it has
I'm not clear on that.
to sit there,
Yeah, where does it say?
so that's use of food.
Huh? Where does it say that?
I'm able to reduce a person drinking water,
No, okay, that was,
return for craftsman. Okay, go on. What?
all right.
Have to use that other word.
Oh, you can't give him money, draw water for me. So I could now use that water to sell the water, right? To
Wash with that.
wash with it. Wash maybe because that's like smearing yourself. Maybe you could.
Okay, well.
Yeah, but I guess to
Both of you.
give it to your cattle. Can't give it to your cattle. Right? Because you have to have the benefit. But you could then give it to a craftsman because he's having the benefit. Okay, when a person tells a worker, here's an Issar, it's an amount of money. Gather vegetables for me today. Second. Gather vegetables for me today. His wage is permitted.
Exceptions.
Right. In other words, the vegetables that are allowed to be gathered on a sabbatical year, his wage is permitted. The money you're giving him is not sabbatical money. Give him regular money. Okay, it's not considered as the money received in return for the product of sabbatical year. Instead, he may use it for whatever he desires. It's not in exchange for produce. He's working. It's not like selling the produce and getting money. That's a direct exchange. The worker is not penalized, and that his wage should be considered the money received from the produce of sabbatical year. If he told them, gather vegetables for me today for it, his wages then is considered money received in return for the produce of sabbatical year, because now it's an exchange. If he says, here's money, go gather for me, so it's not an exchange. I'm paying you for the work. I'm not paying you for the vegetables, right? But here he's saying, gather vegetables today, and this is considered money, right? Then here's the money for the vegetables rather than for the work, right? He may use it only for eating and drinking for the produce sabbatical year as a result of that money that he gets. When a donkey driver performs work with the produce of the sabbatical year, that is forbidden. So he's doing work with the produce of the sabbatical year that is forbidden. Example, they bring more than the minimum amount of produce. Their wages are considered as money received in return of sabbatical produce sabbatical year. There's a penalty imposed upon them. While it is permitted to bring small amount of produce in the sabbatical year from the fields, right? These donkey drivers have brought oversized loads as if they would do in other years. Aha! Remember that the field is hefker; it's free, right? It doesn't belong to anybody in the sabbatical year. Now you're loading up this donkey, so you're acting like it's a regular year, right? When it's free, so you're just taking what you need to eat. When you're loading down the donkey, obviously, like you're taking it to sell, or you're not taking the days or the week's food. You're taking something much more than that. No, the point over here, the donkey driver who is doing this, who loaded it but is carrying it. Most importantly, is that he's carrying it, right? He got paid for this. there's a penalty imposed upon him. That money is going to be considered a sabbatical year money.
I put specifically to eat.
When was the penalty imposed on the wages of a donkey driver and on the wages of a hired worker? Why is there a difference? Because the latter receives a minimal wage. Hence, he is not penalized so that he could earn a livelihood. The donkey driver is not just receiving a minimal wage, he's like, a businessman. The other one is just a blue collar worker, so then he's getting minimum amount, so he's not being penalized.
People
So he's not so much doing business. He's got to make a living. He's got the guy, sabbatical year, you still got to live, right? So a person has to, and this is what he can do. He's the simple blue collar worker. So okay.
Instead of buying food, you have to give food.
What do you mean?
In replacement, you get paid money, and with that money, you buy food. But in this case, you get paid for food.
No, he got paid. The laborer got paid and the donkey driver got paid. The donkey driver is penalized. He's a businessman.
Okay.
He laid down his donkey full of produce, right? The worker is not penalized because he's making minimum amount and the guy's got to live with of something. So his produce, his money will not be considered sabbatical year money, that it's got limitations. Donkey driver will be. Okay. Okay. 15. Last halacha. One may partake of produce of sabbatical year in expectation that the recipient will return. So I'm going to get the produce of sabbatical year in expectation that the recipient, even in return for having performed a favor, that the recipient will return the favor, and when there is no such exceptions. What does imply? By the idea of eating in expectation of return of a favor. One may give a colleague the produce of the sabbatical year as if he had already performed a favor for him, or invite him to the garden to eat as one would have performed a favor for him. When a person was given the produce of sabbatical year as a present or inherited it, he should partake of it in the same manner as he gathered the produce from the field himself. Okay. Finish the chapter.
That's fine.
Let's do just one halach in chapter 7. One may only partake of the produce of sabbatical year as long as its species are found in the field. This is arrived, the animal and the beast in your land will be all the produce to eat. Implied is, as long as the beast can be eating from the species in the field, one may eat from what he has collected at home. When there are no longer any of the species for the beast to eat in the field, one is obligated to remove the species from his home. So let's say, I don't know, well, he's going to say what's implied. This is the obligation of beer, which is applied to the produce of sabbatical year. That's it. What is implied? A person has dried figs at home. He may partake of them as long as the figs on the trees in the field. When there are no longer figs in the field, it's forbidden for taking figs, and he has it at home, and he must instead remove them.
Wow.
If he had a large amount of produce, he should distribute the quantity that can be eaten in 3 meals to every person he desires. It's forbidden for both the rich and the poor to partake of it after the time of beer. Beer means it's finished, meaning figs, the example figs, finished off the trees. Well, if the animals can't eat the figs off the tree, right? You can't eat them either. So now let's say you got a lot of figs at home. So make baskets that'll be enough for 3 meals and give them out to different people. So they'll have enough for 3 meals. Because after that, not allowed it anymore. You're not able to find people to eat at the time of beer. He should burn it with fire or cast it in the Mediterranean Sea or destroy it by any other means.
Careful. You're
Amazing.
stock.
Amazing stuff.
It also protects the land, eh?
No, this is not the protecting the land, because this is the stuff in your house already. What this is, what this is really saying is like, if the beasts and the animals can't have it, so you can't have it either. So you know what? Just meaning you're not, by the way, this is the law of anti-hoarding. Anti-hoard, your anti-hoard, remember her? Well, this is the law against her, against hoarding. All right, folks. We'll see you later on 6:30 as far as a TRC. I'll keep you